Movies are honest liars. Grandiose award ceremonies are devoted to honouring the credibility of their lies. Alternatively, television news divisions claim the visual information they present is absolute truth. And in doing so, they guide decision-making on a global level. There are no actors to remind audiences that the visual reality offered is one that should be interrogated, to question whether our heartstrings are being tugged authentically or for entertainment value. It would be remiss to not take into consideration the fact that anything recorded and played back will inherently misrepresent the truth. But it is very easy to miss.
Proposal calls for electing a president from among several candidates.
And the knowledge that humans are so willing to believe what they see is a godlike power to play with. So if movies are honest liars, how do they honestly portray the lies that news divisions intrinsically tell? In Sidney Lumet's 1976 satire Network, we meet news anchor Howard Beale on the brink of being fired for low ratings. He retaliates a quest for sensationalism by proclaiming,
"I will be retiring from this program in 2 weeks' time because of poor ratings. Since this show was the only thing I had going for me in my life, I have decided to kill myself."
So what'd she say?
I'm going to blow my brains out right on this program a week from today.
Ratings soar, and the network exploits the audience's joy in watching Howard's veil slip.
They want Howard to go back on and yell bullshit. They want Howard to go on spontaneously letting out his anger. A latter-day prophet, denouncing the hypocrisies of our time.
Hey, that sounds pretty good.
The film develops in 3 phases: naturalistic, realistic, and commercial. Network cinematographer Owen Roisman elaborates that the first naturalistic phase was shot in whatever light existed on location. The realistic phase would allow the location to dictate the lighting decisions. Then the commercial phase would be lit to evoke his desired mood and style. The more polished and orchestrated the visual, the more falsity it conveys. In parallel, when Howard veers away from the shiny formal to say his ugly truth,
It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad.
It hits a chord with the public, which obviously hits a chord with the network, which allows the network to manipulate Howard's audience-generating authenticity. So much so that Howard's original outspoken call to integrity,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
is transformed by the network machine into a viral catchphrase.
Ladies and gentlemen, the network news hour.
It's an interesting prediction on the state of visual information today, where humans now have the potential to be their own network, carried around in the back pocket of the masses, and authenticity is similarly adopted as a marketing tool to procure our contemporary metric of ratings, likes, comments, and shares.
We're all secretly terrified by what's happening, aren't we?
A comparable depiction of the news industry, ominously prescient in the way media exists today, is Albert Brooks' 1987 film Broadcast News. Holly Hunter's character Jane Craig is so devout in her pursuit of objective truth when producing the news that she schedules in predetermined slots to cry, strategically leaving emotions aside when working. She meets her match when Tom Grinnick, played by William Hurt, is hired as the latest news anchor and personifies every unethical evolution of news reporting she detests.
I'm pretending to be a reporter. And half the time, I don't get the news that I'm talking about.
Though even she, as the moral touchpoint, is swayed by his charisma and good looks.
I mean, I think about him outside of work sometimes, but I know I don't respect him.
She congratulates his transgressive choices when reporting on a sexual assault case, in which he sheds a single tear.
It's just... this whole thing has just messed me up.
Could I turn on the news for a second?
It's later revealed that Tom reshot his cutaway, acting out the tear to purposely evoke empathy and drive ratings.
You could get fired for things like that.
I got promoted for things like that.
Working up tears for a news piece cutaway. You totally crossed the line between what is ethical and what is garbage.
They keep moving a little, sucker, don't they?
As media coverage practices evolved with the introduction of cable and VCRs throughout the 1980s and early 90s, viewership grew exponentially, and television news characters driven by sensationalism and celebrity culture became an even greater focus within cinema.
Who wants to be on TV? There she is.
Oh, look at who's looking at herself.
In Gus Van Sant's 1995 film To Die For, Nicole Kidman's character, Susan Stone-Moretto, a hungry for success small-town TV reporter, coerces a pair of naive high school kids to kill her husband. Suzanne is acutely aware of the power that comes from teleporting a falsified perfect image of oneself into millions of households, and exploits it to its limit, void of any moral culpability.
I mean, it's like if you get too close to the screen, all you can see is a bunch of little dots. You don't see the big picture until you stand back. But when you do, everything comes into focus.
The motif of multiple dots reappears throughout, most notably as an armor that Suzanne actively wears, reaffirming her claim that the pixelated version of reality is one that is, in essence, deceptive and thus protective. At the point of murder, however, Suzanne's point of view becomes singularly focused into one dot, framing victim and husband Larry Moretto, which lets the viewer know that this is a trustworthy, authentic visual, Suzanne at her most truthful. In the close of the film, one of her high school recruits recalls,
Suzanne used to say that you're not really anybody in America unless you're on TV. Because what's the point of doing anything worthwhile if there's nobody watching? So when people are watching, it makes you a better person. So if everybody was on TV all the time, everybody would be better people. But if everybody was on TV all the time, there wouldn't be anybody left to watch. That's where I get confused. Anyhow, they're flying me to go on Oprah next week, and I hope she's gonna give me some diet tips. And Phil Donahue called too. But to tell you the truth, I'm kind of nervous about that one, because I honestly can't follow what he's saying most of the time. There's some others, too, that I can't really remember offhand. But it's really something when you think that I'm the one who's going to be famous. Suzanne would die if she knew.
And sticks.
Film critic Roger Ebert once said, "If newspapers are the first draft of history, real-time footage of events is a raw material, for better and worse, unfiltered through journalistic principles of fact-checking, attribution, context, and corrections." One could argue, however, that this raw material often does include corrections, but they act more as non-disclosed directorial filmmaking decisions, forcing news to become just that, the movie. In Dan Gilroy's 2014 thriller Nightcrawler, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Lou Bloom, a voracious amateur cameraman who roams Los Angeles at night, hunting for lurid crime scenes to sell to TV stations. He's drawn to the role like a moth to flame after passing a motor accident on the highway.
Will this be on television?
Morning news. If it bleeds, it leads.
He finds his calling in an instant, becoming what is known in the industry as a stringer. Immediately recognizing the audience's rampant appetite for violence, it's not long before he moves elements within the scene to amplify traumatic responses, repositioning dead bodies in the frame and inevitably setting his intern up to get killed for the shot.
You saw him.
I can't jeopardize my company's success.
Gyllenhaal has described Lou as part of a generation who are looking for jobs in a world where jobs are redefining themselves. The most fixed commonality of these redefined roles is perhaps the act of recording and the concept of success at any cost. A perfect recipe for the misuse of information. Fake news. Most potently recognizing the everyman journalist. The Lou Bloom in all of us.
To you this time.
Matt Yoka's 2020 documentary Wolrebird uncovers the true story of Los Angeles stringers Bob Turr and Marika Gerard. The film follows their adrenaline-fueled beginnings, taking to the skies of helicopter surveillance, uncovering the critical effect of live broadcast capabilities, and of course the apex of live news coverage.
O.J. Simpson tonight is an accused felon on the run.
Might have been the most aircraft over a moving situation that I had ever experienced.
You could be eating a cheeseburger in an outside restaurant, and all of a sudden you see a wall of helicopters. It's like, what?
It is a drama whose match we have never seen.
Never. This is so very different.
Documentary format offers an insight into the nuanced human effects of obsessively chasing the worst atrocities of humankind and the repercussions within society's behaviour of constantly watching them. While recording the 1992 LA riots, Bob Tur acquires the infamous footage of truck driver Reginald Dent being repeatedly beaten. Bob atypically testifies to what he witnessed. The fallout is intense, and quickly it becomes apparent that profiting off tragedy and simultaneously affording a short-term high from the rush of hunting it takes a devastating toll on both Bob and the LA community.
Isn't it kind of ironic, though, that your business depends on the violence? In a sense, you couldn't have your business couldn't operate here in Hawaii because it is so serene?
Yeah, it's ironic. It's sad. That's the news business. Like being a war correspondent at home.
Do you have any solutions, or are you just an observer?
There are no solutions. Civilization's going to have to basically destroy itself before people get the message.
It is a documentary format that perhaps also offers a more rounded observation of a world obsessed with watching and being watched. It recognizes too that in its greatest makeup, giving the camera to the public finally exposed the once hidden abuse of authority, police violence, and generations of racial injustice.
And the black community wanted justice because what they saw on that tape, they had experienced, they had lived through, they've seen that. And now the officers were going into the criminal justice system, but there was no explanation in my mind for what I saw, despite the LAPD's best efforts to put a spin on it.
In today's digital age, the proliferation of smartphones has transformed each individual into their own personal news network, though the hunt for viewing figures is still much the same. Just as network and broadcast news predicted, the awareness of drama and pathos to procure engagement exists in TikToks of fake family deaths to sell a song, or algorithms that purposely direct viewers towards suicide. And as To Die For forecasted, content creators' acute awareness that sensationalism and divisiveness increases engagement catastrophically redefines the knowledge that bad press is good press. The world is cut up into millions of 15-second bite-sized videos where a clip of an act of terrorism is passively ingested alongside a cat dancing, all reflected back to us in our pocket-sized black mirror. These long-form feature-length movies unpick the workings behind the news and remind us to take an active role in the visual information we're fed and the agenda behind it. Perhaps even go so far as to receive the news and what we hope are facts from concrete, trustworthy sources beyond the illusory screen.
You got to change your evil ways.
In other news tonight,
I know it's good film. I know it's fun. I like fun. It's just not news. Well, you're lucky you love it. You're going to get a lot more just like it. Good.
This can go on. Lord knows you've got to change